Welcome, everybody. I'm Ethan Evans. Today, we're going to talk about executive presence killers, what's silently holding you back. We're going to spend a relatively short amount of time on slides. We're going to do a demo real quick where I'll get a volunteer who wants to ask me a question. So the way that's going to work is I will take somebody who raises their hand. They will come off mute and ask me a question, but you have to be willing for us to judge and critique your executive presence when you present the question. So don't raise your hand if you're not willing to get some feedback on either you did a great job or here's what you can do better. And I'm not sure what that's about. But, all right, moving on. Next slide. Come on. Okay, so this is my background. For those of you who don't know me, I'm an engineer by training. I spent 12 years in startups. I spent 15 years at Amazon, where I was in a series of progressively higher responsibility roles. I started with a team of 6 as a senior manager. 9 years later, I had a team of 800 and was a vice president. I spent some more time there, and during my tenure, I built the first version of Prime Video. I ran the video game business for a while. I built Amazon's App Store. I worked at the Twitch subsidiary, which is all the team in purple with the Twitch logo. And I started Prime Gaming. 5 years ago, I left to do this, to teach, which I love. So thank you for giving me your time today. I'll make it worth it. But that's who I am in my background. If you haven't used it, I built a custom GPT that is super highly rated by people like you. If you want a 24/7 version of me, including one that talks about executive presence, this is it, and here's how you get it. You get it by signing up for my free newsletter. I do not charge. I have no ability to charge for access to that GPT, and I don't. It's in ChatGPT's store. If you don't pay for an OpenAI subscription, they will limit your use, but that's them, not me. So consider whether or not that's helpful to you, but it's a 24/7 version of me you can use whenever you want. And you can get it through the Substack newsletter sign-up process. Straight into the material, no delay. The number 1 and 2 traits, based on research by a woman named Sylvia Ann Hewlett on executive presence, are confidence and decisiveness. Those are the 2 things that convey executive presence more than anything else. So what are the silent killers? The killers are anything that makes you not seem confident and decisive. So the biggest one, I'm going to talk to all the introverts who are here. If you don't speak up at some point, you can't be either confident or decisive. So I know for introverts, breaking into conversations and making yourself heard, and for people for whom English is a second language or third language or sixth language, which is a lot of you, it's tough to speak confidently in a forum. But while in my classes I teach, there's lots of things you can do to enhance your executive presence. At the end of the day, you do have to say something or write something. There is no way around that. So that's the number 1 thing, is make yourself heard. Now, I can't go into all the ways to do that today. You can prepare what you're going to say. You can memorize it. You can write it down. You can have a friend break in for you and say, let's hear what Ethan has to say. Or I think Jason has a key point on this. But at some point, you're going to have to deliver that line, and you're going to have to sound confident while you're doing it. So the number 2 thing, the related thing, is hedge words. If you lack confidence, you say, well, maybe we should do this. It could be that the problem is that. I think we need to raise the budget. These do not convey confidence. So on speaking, important research from Stanford I want to share with you. I think it was Stanford. They did an experiment where they had people in a room solving math problems. And then at the end of the, collaboratively, and at the end of the session, they had everybody rate who's the smartest person in the room. Well, it turned out that people who spoke first were more likely to be rated as smart than people who actually gave right answers. We don't have to like the fact that this is true about humanity, You need to understand that speaking up quickly and sounding confident influences people even when you're wrong. I'm not saying babble out a lot of wrong stuff in order to be first, but I am saying a lot of you have this idea of, well, I'll see if someone else brings this up. I'll wait to see if it matters. You're lowering your influence when you do that, right? If it's on your mind to say, go ahead and say it. And then hedge words, don't undermine yourself by saying, well, I'm not sure, but. Like, that is the worst thing you can say. I'm not sure, but. You just set yourself up for like, well, don't listen to me too much. This quote at the bottom, I learned from somebody else, but it has become true of me. I've realized my wife makes fun of me correctly because I speak with like a voice of God authority where I sound like I know for sure. And she's like, sometimes you sound like you're sure and I don't question you. And it turns out you're full of it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that on purpose, right? The thing is, I may be wrong, but the way I'm wired, I'm never in doubt. Like once I decide, I'm sure. And I convey it to all of you like I know. And I see some of you smiling and grinning at me in the pictures, and that's fine. But recognize this does have value. It also has a dark side. Okay, I will drive us all off a cliff together confidently. So you want to balance this, but be aware that like conveying that kind of confidence works and not doing it doesn't. So Jason, just a footnote. I have no idea why. Maybe it's because you scheduled the meetings, but we hit the 299 limit, and even though I bought more seats. So I have no idea why it's doing that. Don't know how to fix it. Okay. So moving on, the 299 of you who are here are now the lucky crew who get to be here, and the rest, unfortunately, won't be able to join, and that's too bad. Let's talk about over-contextualizing these two damaging habits that are related. You don't want to over-contextualize and qualify. So qualifying, again, is the maybe, the but, the I think. But over-contextualizing is saying too much, repeating things 3 times, giving all the conditions. Executive presence, as it says here under verbal fidgeting, is amplified by short, powerful, direct declarations because they sound confident. They sound, speaking more slowly is a way around this. Okay. When you pause a little bit, like I'm doing now, that cadence conveys confidence. Because what do people do when they're nervous? They speed up and they talk very quickly normally. The faster you're talking, the less confident you sound. Because if I'm talking very quickly, it sounds like I'm covering and I can't keep my words straight. Delivery. So what can you actually do to get better? Well, you can practice your communication. Write your question out. If you're asking a question, if you want to make a statement, there is nothing that prevents you in a meeting from on your phone or on a piece of paper quickly jotting down either the exact words you want to say or the 3 points you want to make so that you have an aid and also so that you rehearse them mentally. There's also nothing that prevents you going into a meeting or going into a decision from thinking through what are the 3 main objections I may face and how do I plan to respond to them so that it's quick and easy for you. For questions, then, ask one question and stop. Don't ask a question in 7 parts. Don't restate it and say, well, so I want to know about the budget, and what I want to know is this, and why I'm thinking about it is that. Just state, I'm worried about budget line item 3. It seems like we're spending too much money on travel this year, and I'd like to address that. And then stop. Don't, You can say, I have more questions for later if you need to, but that's enough. Okay. Oops, I scrolled ahead. So, next slide. On this point about being short, here are a couple frameworks you can use. One of those frameworks is what, so what, now what. So the what, how does this tie back to company goals? How do we make it relevant? If you're trying to convince somebody of something in a corporate environment, how does this apply to the company? What's the thing we're talking about? What's the risk? The so what? What's the impact? What's the risk? What's the opportunity? This creates urgency. And then now what is what you want to do? So the topic is, I want to hire a new person. I want approval for a new person. That's what I want. So, dear boss, I want you to approve a new head because, so what? We need this person to hit our fall shipment and to hold on to customer X. Therefore, would you please approve this today? What, so what, now what? If you like another framing of this, some people find easy to remember, it's be bright, be quick, be gone. So when you want to land with executives and have that presence, be bright means be smart, be organized, have your facts, state them succinctly, and then move on. Speaking as an executive, I don't have time for everybody who wants to spend time socializing with me. You earn that time by being bright and being quick. I'll pay attention to you later, but don't hang around trying to force a longer meeting so you get more face time. Take your win and leave. Okay. Recognize silence is golden in a couple ways. Some of you, I bet, a few of you here, I'm even guessing, are in sales and have learned this. The worst thing you can do in sales is be unwilling to be silent. It's called negotiating against yourself, where you say something like, we'd love for you to buy this package of software. We think it will really solve your problem your company is facing and bring more value to you, and the price is $1 million. Of course, if that's too much, we can finance some of it. You just undermined yourself. You've got to sit, and once you put the request out there, whether it's for headcount approval or resources or more people on your team or a raise or whatever else, you have to be able, it's then a game of chicken. Whoever speaks next, particularly if it's you, is losing. So you have to be able to sit silently and avoid, as it says here, either restating the question, negotiating against yourself, or rambling. So executive presence is not just controlling what you say, it's controlling what you don't say. All right. So I've taught a little bit about this. I can't possibly teach everything of executive presence in 15 minutes and then have time to also answer all the good questions that will come, as well as show people a little practice. Instead, we have a class. It comes out in 10 days, next Saturday, and it's super heavy on live practice. So if you're interested, and only if you're interested, you can come to this class, and we have like 8 hours of practice and role playing, as well as deeper lecture that we're going to spend. I say we, it's Jason and I, that we will spend with you to actually teach you how to do this. And we'll teach you in 2 ways. This is important. Way number 1 is you'll get a chance to try it if you want. Way number 2 is you'll get to watch other people try it and learn, because then you can pay attention to what they're doing and you can watch, what did they do well? What would I do differently? And so when I invite someone here in a moment to speak, they're going to get a chance to try speaking a succinct question, and everyone else is going to get a chance to watch how they do it. And whether they do it well or poorly, you can learn from either way. Doesn't matter. And for this class, as a thank you for you coming here and being here, we're discounting. We offer a 10% discount. Jason will have put this code in chat if you want it. That will take you to the page and you can read more about the class. It's good for 48 hours. We'd love to see you in the class. That said, I'm here to teach, not to sell you things. So let's go to audience Q&A. I will take the voted questions from Zoom, but I would first like to invite one person, raise your Zoom virtual hand, and I will give you a chance. Ask me any question on this topic you want, but try to ask it crisp, focused, like you were presenting to an executive. Roy, you win the lotto. Come off mute and wow us all. Everyone else, Roy has agreed to be judged. This is your chance. Go for it, Roy.
Ethan, my challenge is being concise and being brief. I read Smart Brevity by Axios and trying to operationalize that. And I'm creating a custom GPT to also give me corrections to be more concise. What other tips do you have?
All right. So I was worried you were not going to get to the question while you were talking about being concise. The most concise you could have been would have been to say, hi, Ethan, I'm Roy. I have a question. I struggle with being concise. How can I do that? That would have been the most concise. Not that you did a bad job. I think you did a pretty good job. The other thing, if you were to go back and look at the tape, your eyes are all over the place. Now, I tend to look around, but when you're trying to make a point with someone, that's where you bore into them with your eyes. So just be aware. Yes, you can be more concise, but also control your body language. Now, Jason, in some ways, is our expert of the two of us on concision, on being concise. What we do is we often think, how could I do this if I was limited to a tweet? If I only had 140 characters, what would I say? How would I prune every possible word? So I will go away from my slides after this, but just going backwards, remember it says, write out your question in 20 words or less, then cut 5. Mark Twain, famous author, originally said, I'm going to stop the share, originally said, he wrote someone a letter and he said, if I had had more time, this would have been shorter. So he understood that it takes time to actually get your words down to a precise thing. You can practice. You can take the time to edit. That's one tip. Second tip is something we teach in the course. It's called BLUF, B-L-U-F, bottom line up front. Get really good at asking your question in the first few words and then giving context. So remembering what you said to me, we would go back and what you would say is, Ethan, I struggle with being concise and I'm seeking tips. So that you know, I've read this book and I've built a GPT to help me practice. What else can I do? But you gave the impression of being super concise by first spitting out the question in the first line and then giving the context. Whereas you explained, and I was like, okay, where's this going? And then you got to the question. So just reverse it.
Yeah.
So that's 2 tips, pre-write or think in tweets, and state the question before you give context. The last thing I will say is your idea of practice is really good, and I will share this with everyone. I don't have time for a demo, but I was playing with ChatGPT yesterday. You can probably do this with any of the systems. ChatGPT has a voice mode. You can ask it to do anything. And I ask it, hit me with some questions I'm supposed to respond to on the fly on topics that are common knowledge, but hit me with a question, have me respond to it, and then critique my response. And you can practice this live as much as you want. And you can tell it to be harsh, and you can give it the domain. You can feed it a document, or you can feed it a meeting you're going into and say, ask me 3 hard questions about this and critique my responses for being crisp or for being clear. It will do that. It's very good at it because it's a language model. Okay. Thank you very much for volunteering. Brave guy. That's what we're going to do a lot more of in the class, which is have people volunteer, see how they do, give them tailored feedback, but everyone else can learn from it. And yes, I love the fact that you're all giving him some love for stepping up. All right, we're going to go to the voted questions. just because the voted questions is a way of knowing what you all most wanted to hear. And Amrutha asked, what's the key to balancing assertiveness without crossing into aggression? This is a great question, and I appreciate that it's coming from a woman because fair or not, you face more of that, right? A guy who's aggressive, different. I think the first difference between assertive and aggressive is what is your emotional state at that moment? If the only way you can get yourself to speak or to debate someone or to interrupt or interject or claim the microphone is by first harnessing your inner anger or frustration, you're more likely to come off as aggressive because that emotion is going to come through in your body language, in your face, in your tone, possibly even your words. So the first thing to work on is, am I comfortable asserting without feeling angry, without needing to harness an inner frustration? Am I comfortable feeling that I have a right to speak and I have a right to be heard, and that isn't combative? That's one thing that will make a big difference. The second thing is, are you trying to help or are you trying to win? So in another context, I teach the difference when I teach all these executive skills and influence. Remember, influence can be used for good or evil, right? Many of the great dictators in history, as well as arguably today, they have excellent executive presence. They are very good at making points in a compelling way and speaking powerfully. And so the tool set I'm teaching can be used for good or evil. What is the difference? The difference is motive. Is your motive to win an argument or even to get an advantage for yourself, to get a benefit? Or is your motive to help the room make the right decision? If you can come with it and say, look, I'm trying to do the right thing here. This is your internal dialogue. I'm trying to do the right thing to help everyone succeed and to get us to the right place. It will come off differently than if you're trying to score points. And so with your skills in executive presence, a way to be assertive is to just stick with that, to stick with what is my motive. It's weird. My microphone cut out? Doesn't look like it.
We can still hear you, Ethan. We cannot see you.
You cannot see me. All right. We may not spend a lot of time trying to fix that.
There you go. You're back.
Who knows? I have no idea why that happened. Tech problems. Okay. So on assertiveness, what else do I have to say there? Because this is important. Assertiveness, you can break into a conversation a few ways. You can have someone else advocate for you. You can set up beforehand in a meeting, hey, if you see I'm trying to break in, it's actually a way to separate aggressiveness and assertiveness is if I interrupt and say, hey, everybody, hold on a moment. Amrutha has something to say. Or I think Jason was trying to speak. I think Julie was trying to break in. Then I can say something and you don't own the aggression. That's one way to do it. And you can have an ally and two of you can do it for each other. Another thing you can do is raise your hand. We're trained since kindergarten to respect raised hands. It works in Zoom. It also works in the real world. And you just have to be patient about it sometimes, but people will get to you. The third thing, of course, well, there's a couple others. You can speak softly. You can actually just talk more quietly and the room will usually quiet down to hear you. There's a number of these tricks. So that's a few answers. Okay, next question. Let me make sure I'm getting the top question here. Appears to be from Sarah. I'll take a couple more real quick. Sarah, how do you strike a balance between giving enough context to make your point and keeping the content minimal and direct? Okay, complex issues. And she's asking about complex issues. If you need to give a lot of context and you can't do it in a pre-read or in a document or in a handout or something else, then tell people you need to give them context and why. You can still appear decisive by saying, I need to bring a complicated topic to your attention. It's going to take a few minutes for me to walk you through it. I'm going to do that as quickly as I can. If you get lost or have questions, please interrupt. And then you do the walkthrough. But people can handle anything if they are given the context. It's also great if you can say, I'm going to walk you through the key points. Here's a document with all the details. Or you got a pre-read in your email last night that you can reference. That kind of thing is also powerful. But if you need to cover something complicated, give people guideposts what to expect, and that will help. Okay. Next question is, I did that one. Okay. You have said idea is just one point, but in the 3 minutes I get with my CTO, CEO, other than presenting an idea, what else can be done? And what if the CEO and CTO has already heard that idea? How do I make sure an idea, you can't. So this person who's asked wants a guarantee that their CEO will be amazed by their supposedly new idea. There's no way to know that for sure. You can, of course, maybe ask an advocate or ask someone there, but the real thing is with a CEO or CTO or any C-level executive that you have limited time with, my favorite tactic, again, is always ask permission. I'd like to share what's a new idea to me and I hope will be a new idea to you. Can I take 2 minutes and do that? Oh, great. So my new idea is whatever. I think we can build a time machine. Is that something you've already heard about or would you like more? And then if they say, no, we've already looked at a time machine, you can say, oh, okay. Well, the other thing I wanted to raise to you was, but realize it's okay to have a conversation. You can control that conversation by asking or stating, hey, I want to know if you've heard this before because I have 2 ideas. I want to tackle the first one, but if that's something you've already covered, I'll go to the second one. It's okay to frame like that. It's also okay to frame, I know we only have 2 minutes. Excuse my brevity. Have you heard this idea before? No? Great. I'm going to go deeper. And then at the end, if you've been brief, you can always say, do you have a few more minutes? If they do, great. Otherwise, you can say, would it be okay to schedule follow-up time with you? They may not agree, but if you show respect for their time and calendar, very few executives like to say they don't have time. I will close today with a story. It's a story of how my executive assistant, so not a powerful person, right? She's my EA, does my travel, my calendar, whatever, got a meeting with Jeff Bezos to pitch her idea, CEO of Amazon. How did she do that? Well, she had an idea. She worked on it with a product manager from my team. They created Amazon's 6-page document. You don't need to know what that is, but it's the standard write-up in Amazon that's expected. We took it around to a couple of leaders. We were not getting traction with her idea. I was helping her, guiding her, growing her. And by the way, now she's been a director of international expansion for Twitch for years, no longer an executive assistant. But I said, look, we're not getting anywhere. The person who can help us is Jeff. We need to get on his calendar. How are we going to do that? First, if I ask him, it becomes my idea and who knows. But if you ask him, no executive wants to be the person to say no to an executive assistant's idea. It looks terrible. So you're going to make the ask and he's going to say yes. And we worked together and we wrote an email that said, I've been working in her name. Her name's Jordan. Jordan wrote an email that said, I and this other product manager, Taneem, have been working on an idea to put Amazon in the travel business. We've taken it to a few people, but we haven't found the right evaluator yet. As CEO, who do you think we should take this to? I'm just asking for your guidance. Who would be the right person that we should ask in your organization about this opportunity? Here's the key. Or if you would like to hear more about it, of course, we'd be honored to share it with you. That was dragging catnip in front of the CEO. because suddenly he has a chance to be the hero. Oh, see, I'm the sort of CEO who listens when the little people come to me. I'm the sort of CEO who takes a meeting with a random executive assistant and listens to their ideas because we encourage thinking big at Amazon. She sent that email, and within half an hour, we had an email back saying he wanted to take the meeting. Now, interestingly, because I knew my boss would try to micromanage me, I left my boss off this thread. Bezos added my boss, who immediately jumped in and said, Jeff, this is a waste of your time. I haven't reviewed this idea. You don't need to waste your time doing this. I will review it and let you know if it's important. Jeff wrote back immediately and said, no, I want to review the idea. Why? Because he'd committed. He wasn't going to take away a meeting from this woman, my executive assistant, in public. Like hell he was going to do that. So even once my boss tried to suborn the meeting, right, it still went forward. Now, I had to take the heat and be willing to take the heat from my manager, but she got her meeting with Bezos on that idea. And you can do the same thing with your executives. You just have to understand what motivates them and how do you respect their time. How did I respect his time, right? I respected his time by saying, look, we just want a quick reply of who we should talk to. Or, of course, we'd be happy to talk to you if you're interested. But we gave him an out where all he had to say is, you should take this to Fred Smith. So he could answer that in like 4 seconds. He had the choice or the opportunity to do more, and he fell for it or decided to, right? Either way, we had a great meeting, and now she's a director, been working at Amazon, since 2009 or something, so forever. All right. So with that, I have to go. I have a coaching client I'm late for. I did warn her I'd be late, so I did that set expectations thing. But it's been a super pleasure talking to all of you. If this has been helpful for you, consider the class coming up this weekend, next weekend. And otherwise, thank you for all the applause, and thanks again to Roy for stepping up. Talk to you all later. Goodbye.